Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. We're talking about a new movie that just came out. Like I said, I do new movies. You're going to see more of these now because it is starting to be a little bit more Oscar time. And I usually, if I'm going to talk about a movie, is going to be probably more related to it being good than it being commercially good. Does that make sense? Like, I could have put one on in games because it was so good, but the problem is that it's not that I have a problem with commercial films. It's just that when you go to analyze them, they're not as solid as the film that I'm talking about today. Okay, so we'll just begin with what it is, and that's the Joker. All right, I just saw this, and well, to be honest with you, I was blown away. Okay, first of all, it is a Warner Brothers film. Okay, Warner Brothers has a long history of doing things like this. The guy that shot it, Todd Phillips, said he did it in kind of a taxi driver dog day afternoon atmosphere type environment, which is true. It is kind of in that style. If you don't know what those movies are, please watch. Excuse me. Please watch uh, clips on them or whatever it is that you think would work in order to get the kind of idea, and you'll understand why it is that why people say that. So kind of like the Joker has like maybe 4 or 5 different lenses that you could look through this. It's a very complex movie. It's also very, very dark. So what I would recommend is not taking children to see this. It's not appropriate for them. It deals with mental illness, which is a huge taboo in our society. So that already would stir the pot, but it also deals with class structure, which is not something that we like to talk about in this culture either, at all. Um, I'm trying to think what else it really deals with. Um, it deals with society in general and its lack of cohesiveness to kindness. Because I think personally, if you were to ask me what the meaning of the movie is, it's just be nice to everyone. You know, that you don't know. Excuse me. I should probably preface this. And be nice to the people that you do know who are nice to you. You know, there's a lot of scenes in this that involve random people that the Joker doesn't know that hurt him in some way, and that's the problem. Is that he was hurt too many times by people who would just walk over him. That's what he said. Not to give you any spoilers, but he does say that people, if I had died, then people would have just walked over me and not even cared. But since I did these acts, all of a sudden now I'm a hero, right? And that's kind of the meaning of it. But really, what it comes down to is just be kind and civil to people. Okay, so let's go ahead and unpack this here for a second. Excuse me, I don't know why I'm so goddamn tired. Um, what we're talking about here is the first thing we'll be talking about is mental illness, because that is heavily featured in this movie. Okay, what does that mean to the movie, and what does it mean to our society, and what does it mean to the movie a society? Okay, now mental illness, as I said before, is a very taboo subject in our culture. We do not talk about it at all. We try to refrain from it as much as possible. It makes most people feel wildly uncomfortable, and that's okay. If you feel uncomfortable, then you should not talk about it because you're probably not going to say the right thing, and there might be someone that's mentally ill that would hear your insane theories about how fluoride causes it, and it's not helpful to them, I'm sure. But in this movie, and I also am smoking because they smoked a lot in Joker, so I'm just giving it an homage in my podcast, smoking in my podcast. So Arthur Fleck, I think is his name in the actual thing, is a mentally ill person. Okay, he goes and sees I guess, a court-appointed shrink, but it's not really a court-appointed as much as it's a state or Gotham City appointed shrink, and he has trouble with reality. He has trouble fitting in. He has awkward social cues. He actually has to hand a woman a note that says um, that he suffers from laughing at improper times due to a chemical imbalance, just so she'll understand why it is that he's laughing instead of getting upset or crying or whatever. So you have to unpack that and what all that means. So basically, what the filmmaker was probably thinking with that is I want to treat Joker as an outsider, right? Like he wants him to be what we call in the I believe it came in the 70s. I can't remember if it came earlier than that when we started having the anti-hero, but I know it was popularized in the 70s cinema as the anti-hero. Okay, which is the person that lives outside the realm of good and evil, and is kind of an amoral person. That was somewhat of the director's intention. I don't think that that was all of it, because he makes it very clear towards the end that Joker is not probably a good person. All right, that's kind of his take on it. Is that even though he suffered from mental illness, he didn't use it to better himself. I think. Again, I can't speak for the director. I don't know exactly what he's thinking, but I can tell you that he definitely does not sympathize with the Joker that much towards the end, because the Joker is prone to anarchy. In fact, he sets the city ablaze with kind of a class killing, so to speak. Again, I'm trying not to put too many spoilers in here, but there are spoilers, and I will indicate that there are spoilers on this. So, again, I don't want to give away the movie, but if you're watching this, I hope it's not because you haven't seen the movie. And if you have, please, by all means, I already said it was spoiler on the thing, and you should turn it off. But so, all right. So let's look at it this way: the Joker is a mentally ill person in this movie. All right, this movie is not shot like a superhero movie in the sense that he has magical gifts of superpowers or super intelligence or super anything. Okay, he's a normal person who deals with mental illness in Gotham. All right, and slowly but surely, the security walls that he had around him start to cave away. His mother gets ill. Um, they cut funding to his program that helps him have a free clinic. Just all kinds of stuff. All right, and slowly he starts to care and care less. Now, what I personally think is the maxim of this film and kind of the ideologue that follows this film is that Todd Phillips did not necessarily want to sympathize with the people that are doing mass shootings, but he wanted you to understand why they are doing mass shootings. Okay? Because the Joker, in essence, in Todd Phillips' mind, is the type of person that would do a mass shooting. Okay? That's it. I mean, that's kind of the long and the short of it. He's isolated. Nobody likes him. He doesn't really have any contact with the opposite sex or the same sex. He has no romantic interests. People avoid him. He's very poor. He maybe talks to two or three people a day, and that's about it. You know, and and the idea is, I guess, what he's trying to say is anyone could have been in that. And I get this a lot when it comes with class films. There's kind of this ever-present view in class films like this one that anybody could have been that person if they were put in the same situation. That somehow society controls so much of what we believe. And again, this is up to you on interpretation. You could believe society controls a lot of what we believe. And I would believe that you are mostly correct. I would personally believe that because I do think where you're born and who you're born to and all that kind of stuff definitely affects your personality. Okay? Because there's a lot of stuff that goes into social training at a young age. And if you're not raised to have social training, then you end up with one of them Walmart kids that screams all the time in the checkout, and you're like, oh my god, that kid's not going anywhere. But you know what I mean. So I guess what we're talking about here is the idea of yes, Arthur was mentally ill. All right, So we'll start with that. He was mentally ill. He had trouble with reality and things like that. But the thing is that ultimately he gained a perception of reality when he started to taste power. Okay, and it started with someone giving him a gun, and then it escalated from there. When the city started to back him because of what he did and all that kind of stuff. Okay, the 3-person shooting and blah blah blah. And again, I'm not going to get into it. If you're honestly watching this and I've said spoiler 15 times, then that's I'm sorry. But okay, so he starts to get a taste of power and a voice because he's never had a voice. So he starts talking about who's hurt him and why they've hurt him and blah blah blah. And he has a very very twisted relationship with a late night host named something Murray. I think it's Frank Murray, that he views as a father figure because his father was gone. Father was never there. Okay, so Murray takes on a father figure like persona until ultimately he feels that Murray has betrayed him. Excuse me. By pointing out that he's not funny because he does stand up and it's not funny, but Murray pokes fun at him and ultimately Joker kills him on live TV as kind of a statement as I have now killed my father and I have taken control of my life. This is very Freudian in essence because he's killed his father and he kills his mother too. So, in essence, Joker is a bastard child of Freud because he doesn't have a mother to subdue, because he subdued his mother for many, many years, but ultimately kills his mother before he even kills his father. So the Freudian line gets lost there. But what we find instead is the kind of isolation factor of modern society. There has never been a society, in my opinion, and I'm welcome to anyone to point out that this is wrong. There's never been society quite like this before in the sense of people can be completely isolated and be walking around other people. I've never read about any society that was quite like that before. Okay, most people up until probably the 90s, before the advent of the true internet, formed groups and did things together. They went out and did things together. Now everybody seems to do everything by themselves, or they do it with a very small exclusive group. There doesn't seem to be any uniformity or ununiformity in groups like there once was. So what's happened is that people like Arthur, in my opinion, too, have been isolated from society. Okay, these are dangerous men because they're young men who are not getting sexual conquest, and if they don't have sexual conquest, then they will turn towards violence. And this is exactly what Todd Phillips is talking about in this. If you do not subdue a woman or have control over a woman, so to speak, I'm not meaning in any type of like hardcore way. I'm just talking about you do not have a girlfriend, period. The idea is that you become more and more isolated from society, the weirder you become until finally you lash out or ultimately kill yourself. Because when Joker was going to go on the talk show, he was just going to actually kill himself. But then he decided to take it out on the talk show host, which is interesting. So in essence, well, I think what Todd Phillips is saying there is that Joker had received so much injustice from his quote-unquote father figure, which is television or whatever it may be, that he decided to lash out. He decided to become the father of television, father of the news, father of the cultural zeitgeist, so to speak. So, in essence, what you're dealing with here is kind of a two-edged sword, which is that yes, he was mentally ill and he was isolated, but now since he's gotten a taste of power, all of a sudden now he's become the anti-hero, right? Mm-hmm. And this is what happens oftentimes with these movies. Is that unintentionally, even though the director sets up a long stream of this person is not that good, people identify with this person because of the fact that it speaks to them as I have nothing, I'll get nothing, so why not take something for myself? Right? That's the danger, and I can see why the media spends so much time talking about it. But ultimately, I think it's more cathartic to young men that are isolated more than it is a training manual for how to actually go about doing this. If they want to kill people, they'll kill people. That doesn't really matter, right? We don't have wars really anymore where men get out on battlefields and die. So now we have a bunch of men that have never proven themselves in bravery that are not getting laid, that are going out and killing people. And that's exactly what Todd Phillips is talking about here. So, and that's one part of it, which is mental illness, and the other part is the class structure, but that plays more into the actual story of Bruce Wayne and Thomas Wayne and things like that, which I will say because we're already up to 16 minutes here on the program, so I don't want to take too much more time. Again, please go see Joker. It's not appropriate for children. It's not something you can watch every day either. It's a very, very hard film to watch. It's very art house and it's very in your face. Okay, so there's no doubt about it. But again, I will recommend that you go watch this. I'm going to be watching some more of the quote unquote Oscar movies of this year, and I'll be giving you my feedback on them as well. This was a very good movie. I don't know where I would put it yet. It's way too new. But until then, I'll be Wiedersehen.